Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. Today is my full review and discussion of this beautiful Bestech Fairchild. Truly, truly impressive knife. This is something pretty unique and pretty cool. And I have to say, um, I had sort of given up on Bestech for a little bit. I was like, whatever. I just couldn't get excited about anything that they were doing. But this knife, as well as a couple of collaborations, their OEM work is quite impressive, I have to admit, generally speaking anyway. Um, so because of all that, I've been trying to look at a few other Bestechs, and when this came around, I was like, yeah, this is cool. I really, really have to take a look at this. So I've had this for a little while now, and I have to say I still like it as much as the first day. In fact, maybe it's grown on me a little bit more as I've come to appreciate it a little bit more. Um, this is one of those knives that is kind of special and kind of unique. Like there are so many good titanium frame locks out there. Like it's just innumerable. And as a reviewer, even if I did nothing but review knives, I wouldn't be able to get to all the titanium frame locks that are floating around out there. All right. So it's, in that kind of a market, it's pretty hard to stand out, but this really does. Okay. And I want to talk about why. Okay. So first of all, this is the single biggest thing about this knife is this is a fantastic marriage of function and form. All right, this is a beautiful looking knife from a design standpoint. The lines here and the way the connections are made between the blade and the handle, even the contrast between the blade and the handle. Now there are some various color combinations out there, most of which look pretty cool. This is the one that I happen to like the most. You may feel differently than I do about it because that's a little bit subjective, but all of them actually I find to be pretty darn attractive. Like I don't think Justin had enough of these in stock over at White Mountain Knives that I was able to specify like, hey, I want this particular colorway. But even if I couldn't, had he had to send a different color, I would have been pretty happy. I've looked at all of them and they're all pretty stinking cool. I'm trying to think if any stood out to me as being like truly ugly that I wouldn't have wanted. I can't think of any as I think back about when I was looking at these that fall into that category. So this is a piece of functional artwork, and it is very much a piece of artwork. If you look at the flow that this has, the connections, the way everything sort of smoothly melds together, this is just really, really nicely done. So we've got opening holes here in the blade. The backspacer kind of loops out and becomes a lanyard hole here at the back. It's a really nice combination of, there's the perception of layering. You can see the blade when the knife is closed. This is another cool thing. This is one of those few knives that looks as cool closed as it does open. So, again, and that's something that that's not something that every knife is able to do. So design is definitely, a huge priority for this knife, and it is really, really well done. Like I find this to be an extremely attractive piece of artwork. Okay. But at the same time, and usually this is where, things fall off the rails. You look at a knife and you go, yeah, that's a really cool looking knife and it's different and it's interesting and it's not like a million other things that I've seen before. And yet, in order to get there, in order to be different and stand out from the crowd, there's some functionality that is sacrificed. But here, there's no functionality sacrificed, right? This really does a great job as a cutting tool. And so, if this was going to be your EDC knife, or maybe your high-end EDC knife type of thing, or maybe Bestech does a budget version of this in like G10 and I don't know, 154 cm, whatever. My point is that if this was just going to be your everyday carry cutting tool, it would be completely functional in that role, right? It would do a great job. It locks up nice and reliably. It deploys well. It feels good in hand. The blade is very, very effective. It's very thin behind the edge, which is fantastic. We've got this very high, beautifully finished satin grind, by the way, which cuts very, very well. So, my point is, I'm not hitting every feature because that's not really what I'm trying to do here. What I'm trying to point out is that despite how this looks, and it definitely looks different and interesting and cool, it also works, and it works really well. Okay. There's only really one minor complaint that I have about this knife, and it is right here. Okay. And that's, the point where my thumb is going to rest on the back of the blade in the, in the backed off position, right? If I choke up and move my finger up here, that goes away. But from back here, when I'm holding the knife, my thumb lands on this thinned out portion. Um, I feel like that could have been, and if you wanted to get this look, right, if you wanted to kind of carry this finger trail out a bit, one, I don't think it's necessary, but you could have just done a slight little grind and just narrowed that a little bit. But this is, you know, not ideally planned out, right? The jimping is good, it grips my thumb, but why put this narrow area when I could have this nice, big, comfortable area to rest my thumb? All right, that's the only thing, in terms of functionality, ergonomics, that kind of thing, that I'm not totally in love with. So that one little hiccup in this overall great knife, and in fact, I don't even think it's necessary artistically. They're trying to carry this line along, which they achieved, but they could have done it without quite as aggressive of a grind there. All right. So those are all, that's why I think this knife stands out as something different, something interesting, something that I find to be quite compelling, is that, you've got this big, dramatic, artistic, different knife, but you don't have to sacrifice anything in terms of functionality. All right. And this is a fairly substantial knife. This is 9 1/8 overall. The close length is going to be 5 1/4. It's actually just a hair under 5 1/4. 4 inches of grip area, all right, along with that choil. So 4 inches just in this area right here, between here and here, but then you add that choil. So right now I'm fitting into the 4-inch area. Now I've moved up to the choil. Okay, so tons of grip area. 6.1 ounces, which is not bad for a knife of this size. You guys know I've talked about this over and over again. Really, any knife that's around 6.5, even 7 ounces is not that big of a deal to me. Like, you get up to around 8, 9, 10 ounces, yeah, that gets a little onerous. But something like this, no problem at all carrying it. I've carried it in every kind of different pants that I own, and I've never really even noticed it in my pocket. All right. So size, weight, carry, all that is fine. Let's go ahead and grab some comparisons with this qualification. I don't have a lot of knives that are going to compare in the exact same category. All right, what I'm going to do is be like, okay, here's a couple of larger titanium frame locks, because this is different, and it's really flexing the artistry, which most of the knives I'm going to share with you don't really do. So similar size knife. Here's the Zero Tolerance 0308. I like this knife from ZT. I know it wasn't their most popular model. I don't know. Anyway, we can discuss that. The direction of the knife industry just moved a little bit. Okay. So people kind of like something like this. It's a little more flashy, a little more pocket jewelry than something that's a little more functional. And ZT certainly did a lot of that stuff, but this one, they kind of went back to what they used to do. A couple people didn't like the hole. Anyway, I'm off on a total tangent here, but here's my point. Large titanium frame lock. All right, similar size, similar weight, similar blade length. Gives you an idea of, where this kind of lands. Quality wise, I do find the action on this is just a little smoother, a little cleaner. And that's pretty typical of ZT's tend to not be quite as refined as some of the other knives that I'm going to show you here. A knife that is equally as refined, perhaps a little more refined, is the Riot Torrent. This is, of course, one of my favorite knives of all time. It's a little smaller, a little more practical. This is not pushing the artistry the way this knife is, but in terms of an extremely well put together titanium frame lock that's reasonably priced for what you're getting, I think these are both pretty nice options. And certainly Riot would have a number of knives in their catalog, which would be, more toward the artistry end of the spectrum. A couple of knives that are, I guess I should throw in an Inkosi. I feel like you're talking about titanium frame locks. You got to throw a Chris Reeve in there. So there's the Inkosi. Again, very different knives. This is very plain and simplistic and clean. This one is a little more dramatic, right? So to kind of go along with the drama, here is the WE Synergy 2 V2. I love the drop point blade on this. I feel like this is kind of where this knife should have been from the start. At this point, this is about my favorite knife from WE knives. Now, it's a little simpler. It's certainly not as striking as this, but it does have a lot of cool features and, scratches that high-end, unique, different itch in a couple of ways. And I will make a full video on this, even though I'll be recovering a lot of ground I already covered in the V1. That's fine. I like this knife so much that I just want to make a video about it. So be looking for that one. Now, I do have another knife here that I think is matching the flair and the cool factor and the drama of this while still being highly functional. And this is, of course, the Concept Fenrir. This is a really, really great knife. I just find it so attractive and so dramatic and so interesting and yet functional. Easy to carry, easy to hold, easy to deploy, cuts well. I mean, obviously the size is quite a bit different, but these have a very similar theme in that they're both really cool, really different, really creative designs that don't ask you to sacrifice any functionality. All right, so that'll be the last of the comparisons for you. Let's come back with my overall conclusion. And look, guys, well, this is not a perfect knife. There are a couple little things that perhaps could have been done differently or better. Overall, this is a really, really cool knife. I don't have any major complaints about it, and those complaints are certainly things that I can live with. The fact is, there's just not a lot of knives that fall well into the similar category of this. Like, this is a cool knife. It's different. It's interesting. It's the kind of knife you want to show people. And I have shown this to a number of people. They're like, whoa, I cannot believe, and they also do the same thing. They want to hold it. They want to open it. Because what they're impressed by is you see a knife like this and you think, well, should I, it's almost like, this should be on display. Can I just hold it and use it as a knife? And that's why this knife stands out to me as being so cool and is such an achievement, because it's one of those knives. It could be a display piece, but in fact, it's a pretty practical, very carryable, usable cutting tool. All right, there you go, guys. That's my take on the Bestech Fairchild. Absolutely great knife. Love to see this from Bestech. I hope to see this from lots of other companies as well, because I love this style. And there are some people who regularly deliver it. Maybe that'll have to be another video. But for now, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to check out those channel sponsors. That does help me out a whole lot. We will talk to you soon.